All in the cloud. All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Men Who Shine show. I've got one of our Shine Meisters. I'll call him Mr. Andrew Mellen. Andrew Mellen is an organizational expert, public speaker, and the #1 best-selling author of Unstuff Your Life. He's helped over 100,000 people around the world to declutter and simplify their lives while regaining time for the things that matter most to them. In addition to leading workshops, speaking, and media appearances, he maintains a private practice working with clients ranging from Fortune 100 companies, trades associations, nonprofits, works with CEOs, award-winning filmmakers, authors, as well as overwhelmed parents everywhere. His clients include American Express, Bank of America, Genentech, Goldman Sachs, Metropolitan Museum of Arts. He's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, LA Times, New York Times, O Magazine, CBS, HGTV, USA Today, just to name a few. Andrew lives by his motto, more love and less stuff. Welcome, Mr. Andrew.
Thanks, Casey. Great to be here.
Yeah. So I really just want to, when you guys first reached out and I learned about your organization and what you're up to, I really resonated with it as someone who really values organization, but also taking on this notion of, really decluttering your life, and the stuff that's on your shelf is just a symptom of other things going on. So, I want to dig into a little bit about, the book, your Unstuff Your Life, and then your second book, Calling Bullshit I'm Busy, and, the De-Stress Your Mess challenge that you've got going on. You've got all these things going on, a beautiful, amazing backstory from doing prison improv to, theater work to being on the Untouchables to, the Nobel Peace Prize person that you met. So, I'm curious, like, what comes up for you in terms of like why you're doing what you're doing, and when you made this connection of, it's not just, I'm not just here to just organize your stuff. We need to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. Well,
I know I gave a whole bunch of stuff out there too.
Yeah. So the work has evolved over time. So the very first assignment with that Nobel Peace Prize winner, that actually never happened, right? I mean, I got that gig co-producing an award ceremony at the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
I had been laid off from that theater in Seattle, Washington. I had come back east. I got the gig at the Kennedy Center, which was through a private foundation. Met the Nobel Peace Prize winner. He and his wife asked me to organize their photographs for them, which I thought would be a tremendous honor to do that for them. And so that was the genesis of, this is something I could actually do that I'm good at, that could support me in my transition back to New York. So that was where that's where that started. And just through the way that life unfolds, and I've been doing this work now for over 26 years. So the first one seemed peculiar that it unfolded in the way that it did, meaning people were hot to start and then rapid fade as it became closer and closer. The thought of actually stepping forward and doing the work became intimidating, or what, who knows what goes on inside somebody's head that gets them to check out and not walk forward. We all have our own version of sounds awesome, raise your hand, volunteer, and then when the time comes to show up, you're like, it's not convenient. There's something else I'd rather do first. I'm not ready. Give me a few weeks. So, all that story. Anyway, that was my first experience of that with the Nobel Peace Prize winner. They were like, let's start December 20th, first day of work. December 19th, the phone rings, something has come up, we need to reschedule. And they just did that 4 times. And on the 4th time, they said, when we're ready to proceed, we'll get back in touch with you. So I never went to work for them. But in those months, I told everybody, got this amazing gig. I'm going to create a comprehensive photographic archive for a Nobel Peace Prize winner. That led me to, a friend referred me to her accountant. I built a filing system for the accountant. The accountant started referring me to clients of hers. So people would show up with duffel bags full of receipts saying, haven't filed my taxes in 5 years. I've got letters in here from the IRS. I'm freaked out. I don't want to go to jail. And I also I'm so overwhelmed and so horrified that I don't know how to start. I don't know what to do with all of this stuff. Can you make sense out of it for me? And so I would organize all their papers. The accountant would file their taxes. People were like, oh my God, you're amazing. You saved my life. And they would tell all their friends, you'll never believe I gave this guy a pile of garbage. He turned it into my tax returns. He's a genius. And that's how my practice began. And so it was very much stuff based and problem solving, which is in so many ways what my work in the theater was like as a director and a producer was. Here's a script, here's a bunch of actors, here's some designers. We have to make something out of all of these ingredients, which are not disparate ingredients. We're all committed and focused on the same thing, but every actor has their own role in their mind. Every designer is like, the lights are the most important thing, the costumes are the most important thing, is the set's the most important thing, the set's the most important thing. It's like, okay, well, how about if they're all equally important and they all serve to tell the story? And of course, the playwright, if they're living or they're dead, is like, the words are the most important thing. And so I'm taking all of that and synthesizing it together and hopefully turning it into something that people want to sit through for a couple of hours and pay money to participate in. So I just took that skill set and brought it to bear in this work. And because I like to solve problems and because I'm curious about the world and psychology and how we move through time and space, very quickly it became not so interesting for me to be moving crap around people's houses and, you know, rearranging their closets. And so that led me to recognize that while everybody's relationship with stuff, and then when stuff becomes clutter, is unique to them, there are patterns. And in the same way that whether we look at the 16 different personality types of Myers-Briggs or where, you know, however we recognize that there are patterns of how humans are, I started to recognize that there were patterns about ways people either avoided dealing with their stuff, fetishized their stuff. And that was much more interesting to me to climb into than just, let's arrange your closet, short sleeves to long sleeves, whites to, you know, white all through the rainbow to black. And let's do the trousers together and the socks together and the skirts together and the jackets together. Basically, a chimpanzee could do that, right? I mean, you could train a really smart monkey to rearrange a closet. So I didn't really want to spend that. It wasn't enough for me. In the same way that the transition for me in the theater went from acting, which was awesome, to I kind of want to direct all the parts. I just don't want to play mine. And it wasn't about ego. It was about the capacity to solve problems and to make a piece of art. So, I mean, it wasn't like, I need to act everybody else's parts. You need the actors to be good actors, but coaching them to unlock whatever the mystery was about that particular character and how that all flows together with all the other characters. And then again, all the designers and all the other people that are working to make the play a play. That was a bigger puzzle to solve. And that engaged me on a bigger, deeper level. And it's the same thing with organization. So it didn't take long for me to think like, organizing people's papers and putting them in folders is not meaningful enough to me. I get that it serves
not your highest and best use for yourself.
Yeah. And so that led me to start teaching. And then after teaching led me to write the first book, Unstuff Your Life. And actually, Calling Bullshit on Busy is actually my third book. My second book is The Most Organized Man in America's Guide to Moving, which is not a very large book, but it is the second book. And so Calling Bullshit on Busy is my third book.
Nice.
Yeah. And
congratulations. That's an amazing accomplishment.
And so it's this, you know, I mean, it's the same thing with time as it is with stuff, right? I mean, it's always the stuff behind the stuff. The clock is a pretty simple tool. We learn relatively early on how to tell time, and then we have a relationship with the clock, right? We either show up on time or we don't show up on time, but the clock has not changed any more than your closet has changed, right? I mean, it's the you open a door, there's stuff behind the door. It's either well arranged so you can find what you're looking for when you need it, or it's not. But the closet every closet basically functions in the same way. A drawer functions in the way a drawer functions. These are not complex concepts. We bring all of the story to it, and then it becomes complicated.
Right. So what have you noticed in terms of, this making the play of the play, and all these pieces and parts of really kind of, you can say of any kind of creation or any kind of production, if you consider yourself a producer or a creator or anything like that, really understanding the viability of every role. And, the background is just as important as the foreground, because without the background, you wouldn't have the foreground, And so how have you brought that awareness and that skill set into this kind of a holistic coaching, like a holistic life coach organizational bubble?
Well, so whether we're working one-to-one with a client or in any of our coaching programs, we start with the core values so that we understand what is actually important to you. What would you rather die than not be able to live aligned with, right? Like what gets you up in the morning? And I reference all the time Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Because that's where that became so clear to me, was when and for anybody who's listening who doesn't know the book, read the book. And then Viktor Frankl's story is that he had written his first version of this book before he was interned in a concentration camp, and then the manuscript was lost. He survived. And he discovered through his time in the concentration camp or camps, I don't remember whether he was only in one or if he was in multiple. So I'll look that up. He discovered that it didn't matter how healthy you were in some ways, right? Like how fit you were. If you disconnected from the things that mattered to you while you were interred in a concentration camp, you declined much more rapidly than you did if you held on to what was important to you. So, I mean, some of the frailest, physically vulnerable people actually managed to survive those atrocities because they never let go of the tether to what mattered to them. They continued to live by their principles, regardless of what was going on around them, what the Nazis were doing to them, what other inmates might have been, I'm sure it was a total shit show, right? I mean, you're trying to survive, and everybody is trying to survive, and they've created circumstances in which you're pitted against your neighbors if you choose to be. And so he just discovered that the people who retained their humanity and remained attached to their values found a way to survive those atrocities better than the people who succumbed to the disconnection that the Nazis were trying to do, the dehumanization process to get you to be feral so that you disconnected from what made you you. And so obviously not a lot of us have to live in those circumstances today, right? And yet the idea of what are you tethered to, what makes you a human, and not in a universal way, but in a very specific way, what gets you out of bed in the morning. For me, one of those things is service. So it was a natural evolution for me to take the work that I'm doing and figure out, like, how do I do this in service? How do I help other people set themselves free? How do I help other people live a life of meaning, whatever that, I don't care what is important to you, in the sense of, if you want to cure cancer, awesome. You want to change the world, awesome. You want to just show up on time for your kid's soccer game, awesome.
Right.
I don't care what it is. What I care about is if there's something sitting between you and that, let's get it out of the way, because that's an obstacle and it doesn't need to be there. And chances are, unfortunately, because We don't have to hunt and gather on a daily basis to survive. Many of us don't have to do that. We've created these obstacles to give us something to do, because otherwise what would we do all day? We would just sit around and do nothing, because the human brain has evolved over, millions of years or thousands of years to conserve energy and to stay safe. So it wants to work the least amount as it possibly can so that we stay alive. So we have biology telling us, stay safe, don't do anything, don't exert yourself. And we don't have to exert ourselves because we don't have to go hunting and fishing and farming every day. So what are we going to do? Well, I guess we're going to torment ourselves with things that will keep us occupied, busy, and not we will have nothing to show for it at the end of it, other than the fact that we made it through another day. Well, what a colossal waste of human capacity if we're going to spend our days basically tricking ourselves into surviving against odds that we've created ourselves.
It's quite the paradox when we realize, the level or the degree to which we understand we are actually, and I love how you phrased it, really creating our own obstacles, out of either boredom or trauma or poor conditioning or poor programming or any number of factors.
And ultimately lack of awareness of what we're doing, right? I mean, all of those are mitigating forces that inform the choices that we make, the obstacles that we choose. Ultimately, it's because we're unconscious that we're doing it. If you can bring some awareness to, oh, this is me again, this is all me, right? I mean, and that's whether you choose to formally sit on a cushion and practice formal meditation, or you just bring some awareness to, oh, that's me, right? I mean, so-and-so said something and I interpreted that to mean something else. They're angry with me. Well, did they say they were angry with you? If they didn't say it, is it true? Maybe it's just you made that story up. Taking things at face value is very helpful. So if somebody's pissed off, I would prefer that they just say, I am really upset with you. Awesome. Let's deal with it, right? But I don't need to spend time in my head thinking, oh, you must be really angry with me. Why aren't you returning my phone call? I don't know why you're not returning my phone call, but it could be any number of things. Could be because you lost your phone. Could be because your phone isn't charged. Could be because you're doing something else. All of those other things are as possible as, oh, I'm really pissed off at Andrew.
Really this notion of what we make things mean, like A happened and we make it mean B, when A happened and the real meaning behind A could be, very rarely is it the meaning we make it. And it actually has like multiple meanings depending on who you ask, what he said happened, what she said happened, what really happened,
Exactly.
I'm curious what like the story or the instance or the client or something that really pops out at you as like a highlight, an aha, a shift. What kind of shifts have you seen with your clients in terms of really making that shift? I'm not just, cleaning out your closet, how ways in which they've, unstuffed their life, or, the ways that they are experiencing less stress and, the impact of, just having an aesthetically pleasing environment or organizational environment, and how, if you've got any favorite stories like that or big impact stories, I'm curious.
Oh, gosh, I mean, there's so many, and I'm not trying to deflect or not answer the question. I just think our landing pages at the website are full of testimonials of people who, prior to, because it all starts with the mindset, right? It's the awareness. So that consistently, the fact that that's where we start and that's what we spring off of is the game changer for everybody who I just hear it. I mean, somebody just, when I posted on Facebook yesterday about finishing the manuscript to Calling Bullshit I'm Busy and submitting it to the copy editor, and somebody said, I've tried so many programs and I've read so many books, and until I read yours, And I understood that it was my mindset that was the problem, that I am the problem, basically, not the stuff. That has been the game changer for people consistently. So it is one of the distinguishing factors between me and every other organizer, from, you know, Peter Walsh to Julie Morgenstern to Marie Kondo. I mean, any of my colleagues are with love, they're very focused on getting you to tame the clutter, right? And ultimately, the stuff doesn't matter because if you don't change, it's a different pair of socks, but the socks are still going to haunt you of like, you don't want to put them away, or you lost a mate. It's still focused on the stuff. And what I am working with people to do is recognize that until you change, your relationship with stuff is not going to change. So if you don't want to make your bed in the morning, that's not going to change until you want to make your bed in the morning, or at least until you accept that the bed won't get made if you don't make it. You don't have to love making the bed. I'm not here to convince you that making your bed is an esteemable act and you have to make your bed in the morning. You might never want to make your bed, but if you want to walk into the bedroom and have the bed made, you have two choices. You either get a maid or a butler to make your bed for you, or you make your bed.
Right.
It will not make itself yet. I mean, they figure, you know, they have those machines that'll fold your clothes for you, but they haven't figured out a machine that'll make your bed for you yet. We're not that into the Jetsons future yet, where you can push a button as you're getting out of the bed and it'll shake out your duvet and fluff your pillows and, you know, put it all back. And what I did for myself to get myself, I don't like making my bed. That was nothing that I wanted to do, but I don't like walking into the bedroom and seeing the bed unmade. Right. I understand I'm getting back into it, but I'm going to be walking in and out of that room probably a dozen times between the time I get out of bed and the time I get back into bed. So I timed it for myself and found it takes me about 70 seconds to make the bed. So when I do the math, right, 70 seconds of whatever story I want to bring to it, misery, agitation, frustration, for 70 seconds of an investment of my time throughout the day, and I walk into the room it's a cumulative more than 70 seconds that I walk in and walk around my bedroom throughout the day. I will pay 70 seconds for the minutes. It's not probably an hour, but the minutes of time that I spend in the bedroom after that, when I walk in and see the bed made, it's well worth the 70 seconds that I'm going to invest. And so like I talk about in Unstuff Your Life, and I certainly talk about in Calling Bullshit I'm Busy, it's all about, again, where you're putting your attention, where you're putting your intention, and where you're investing your time. Everybody gets the same 24 hours a day. Everybody gets the same 168 hours a week. What you do with them is up to you. So for me, I would rather invest the 70 seconds than walk into the bedroom throughout the day and grumble about like, oh, the place looks like a fucking mess. Like what's going on, right? Yeah. And then I leave the room and it affects my mood.
Yeah, so totally.
When I walk in and I see the bed made, there's nothing to snag me in that room. I'm allowed to stay at whatever energetic level I'm at so that I'm focused and engaged. It doesn't pull my energy down into like, ugh. You know, everybody knows that internal feeling of, ugh, I have to deal with this thing, right? So that saps our energy. It just pulls us down. And if you're having those days where there's just upon stacked on top of yourself, it's no wonder you're not very motivated to do much. The day sucks.
Yes.
And you'll tell yourself a story about, because the day sucks, my life sucks. Your life doesn't suck. But it's just very easy to go from the day sucks to my life sucks. And once you think your life sucks, it's very hard to get motivated to do anything.
Yes. And that's why I'm like, I can't remember who said it, but when they were talking about the notion of making your bed, when they were talking about, you know, even if, you know, shit hits the fan all day long, at the end of the day, your bed is made. You know, like you're kind of guaranteeing that at least I'm going to end this day with like a little bit of like, right. And so that to me kind of like helps, like it's almost like a, well, this is the least I can do kind of a thing, like such an easy thing, such a like, that you can come back to. And I love that you really lead with mindset, because that's been one of my, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen these shows like the A&E hoarders, where they just go in and they like rip shit out, and the hoarder is just like having a panic attack
Oh my God.
because they're not dealing with the root issues. And I mentioned this to you before I started recording. My dad was a hoarder, and I kind of developed this little I value my little area and keeping it organized and clean, and it was like my safe place. But when I see these shows, it's like you have to deal with the mindset, and certainly hoarding and like clutter is a kind of two different entities. But really to have to do the work is what really creates the sustainability of the new system and the new change and all that. So I really appreciate, kind of leading with the mindset, because it also really kind of gives you permission as the coach, as the facilitator, as the trainer, as a teacher, as the organizer, to have those conversations, to kind of walk people down the road of, oh, it is me, like
Right.
getting them down to the aha moment where they see they're the ones who are like bringing in all the obstacles in front of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and as soon as it's hard not to have the conversation, because as soon as we touch something that's tender and you're like, oh no, not that. Well, oh, great. Tell me the story. Like, why is this a non-negotiable? I'm fascinated about why this thing has to stay right where it is. And so unpack it for me, because once people do that, it's very rare that they don't start to recognize how much of the story is fiction. And I mean, and look, again, I don't need to take the story away from you. If it's a good story, if you love the story, keep it. Just acknowledge that it's your story, right? I mean, I say this all the time as a joke, and it's also real. The only thing that comes with a story is an American Girl doll. Nothing else comes with a story. You brought the story to it, right? I mean, like medicines come with instructions and doses, but nothing arrives with a story of it's where it came from, the factory it was made in, the child labor that made it happen, or the well-paid person who was stitching your clothing. It's seldom that we understand the origin of anything. And Annie, I don't remember Annie's last name, but she put together that movie years ago, The Story of Stuff, which was really about consumerism and the back end of our fetishizing of consuming things. But we bring the story.
Right.
So just get clear about, is it a story that actually, now that you recognize it as a story, still has resonance and you want to hold on to the story, or you're done with it? It's like, oh, now that I see that I got the sweater from a boyfriend who broke my heart. You really, I mean, every time you put it on, do you want to think about him? Is that, how useful is that to you?
No, like,
like,
throw that
I
shit in the trash so fast.
Yeah. It's like, why would you want to surround yourself with stuff that hurts your heart? I mean, I understand, again, there's a certain amount of economic privilege that allows you to get rid of things that have utility, but also hurt, right? I mean, if all you have is one sweater and it was given to you by somebody that hurt you, you might need to keep it longer than somebody who has many sweaters, only a few that were given to you by somebody who hurt you. So I understand that economics, socioeconomic class plays into some of this.
Yeah.
For most of us who have the resources to choose between things that hurt us and things that don't, exercising that privilege to let something go is a tremendously powerful way to heal yourself from trauma. And if you are somebody who has very few resources and it feels that it is essential that you do hold on to something, because you don't have the money and or the time right now to replace it, at least be clear that you're making that agreement with yourself, because again, it still helps to neutralize any sting from the trauma of its arrival into your life. If you say, I'm going to keep this sweater because it's the only sweater I have, but I am also going to acknowledge that the motherfucker who gave it to me broke my heart and doesn't belong in my life. The sweater I'm keeping until I can replace it, and I'm done with the person, right? I mean, there's still personal power to be gained from the awareness and being present to what's going on. You're not stuck with the sweater. You still have a choice, and you can dismantle as much of the meanness around the origin of the sweater in your life as you have complete control over that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's such important work that you're doing out there in the world, and it's making a real impact. And as someone, for me, I'm very, affected by the aesthetic, affected by, I had this, I think it was some life design, something or the other. And the woman's like, okay, you're very affected by the aesthetic. And I'm like, yeah, well, isn't everybody? And it's like, everybody is, but you really, it's a thing for you. And, I think that's kind of in with my background. And so I'm just like, I would love everybody to be like clean and organized. It just feels better. Like the psychological effect when things are ordered, and, we can say that nature is very chaotic, and like, it's also very, very ordered in terms of like geometry, sacred geometry, and all these things that are keeping this big ball of floating lava in the middle of nowhere suspended. There are some orders and some laws that are keeping it this way. And so I love that you're making the world a more beautiful place in the way that you are, in the way that you serve. So thank you for that. With this, I'm curious, you just kind of announced, or coming out, you're promoting this de-stress your mess challenge. So tell me, what's that all about?
So we do a 5-day challenge a couple of times a year, and our next one will be in January of 2023. So depending on when you're listening to this, it starts on January the 9th. And it's a 5-day challenge. It runs Monday through Friday, costs $1.
Nice. Okay.
And we take you through most of the major clutter hotspots in 5 days. I mean, obviously it's a 5-day challenge. It's really to mostly reboot your brain, your mindset, and get you started thinking about you and your relationship to stuff. So I think we deal with mindset on every night. We also deal with papers and filing, kitchens, closets, sentimental objects. We talk about the 3 things that most people are doing that are disrupting or preventing them from getting and staying organized, that you, again, unconsciously don't even know that you're doing. And so we really try to give you, for $1 and for 5 hours of my time teaching, because I teach it live every time. It's not a drip delivered, watch at your own time. I mean, look, it does happen at a very specific time. It happens at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So depending on what time zone you're in, you may or may not be able to attend it live. Although I will tell you that we do have diehard fans who in Central Europe at 2 o'clock in the morning are online with us on Zoom, and in the UK at 1 a.m. I mean, at the other side of the world, over in Asia and in Australia, it's the next day. So people are with us in the middle of the future, working in the challenge. But we spend an hour a night drilling down into that clutter topic. You have homework to do. We try to gamify that experience for you. So we give away prizes, door prizes, like participation prizes, not like millennial participation prize. Everybody doesn't get a trophy for just showing up, but we do give you no
offense to the millennials.
No offense to the millennials.
Just kidding, they're already offended.
It's okay. It's all about a story.
Exactly.
A story and a trophy. It's you can heal yourself. So we give away prizes for participation. We have a Facebook group that runs during the challenge, and so depending on how well you do your homework and how much you participate in the group, we give away participation trophies for that, and different door prizes. And then there's a grand prize that we give away at the end of the challenge. We draw a name out of the hat, and that person will win the entire suite of all of our products. So they'll win admission to the Unstuff Your Life system, which is it's $12.97 for that program. All of the classes at Unstuff University, which range between $97 and $197. So you get everything, and one person will win everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and the buck, again, to be completely transparent, the buck is for the participants. We used to, when we first started doing the challenges, which was the first one we did was just at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we would have 10,000 people showing up, signing up, not showing up. 10,000 would sign up and 2,000 would show up. And I'm like, where are those 8,000 people? Right. I mean, this goes back to the Nobel Peace Prize winner, right? Easy to raise your hand. But then when push comes to shove, not ready to show up, right? Oh, suddenly it's not convenient. Well, I mean, it was a free 5-day challenge taught live by me. Again, the value there is that it's a live event. You get the juice of being in the room with other people. You're not watching a video on your own time trying to motivate yourself. Right. You have the accountability. We're all showing up at 8 o'clock. You show up, you get everything too. Right. And so what we discovered was because people didn't have anything invested, it was easy to blow it off. So, I mean, look, I could charge $20. I don't want to charge $20. I want as many people as we can possibly pack into the Zoom room as possible. So I figured the cheapest that we can do it is price it at $1. We don't have to price it. It doesn't, the dollar doesn't need to be a barrier to somebody being able to attend. Right. But the beautiful thing about how simple we are as organisms is whether you put $1 down or $100 down, the act of investing your money means that you're going to show up. You've got a 3 times greater chance of showing up. So I just am using human psychology for you. You might think it's against you, but it's for you to get you to show up. If you pay the buck, you're more likely to show up. You get what you came for. I'm not doing the challenge for me. I don't need a de-stress your mess challenge. I'm not very stressed, and I don't have any clutter. So I'm doing the challenge for you. Yeah. And if making you pay $1 is going to get you into the room, I'll take your dollar.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's beneficial. I've seen that as well. I mean, when you're like, oh, I paid, whatever, I should, show up. But, one other thing to add to these kinds of events and what you get out of the participation and out of the live component of it is really like you're setting yourself up, you being the participants are setting themselves up to be more successful because it's more intention. You're putting yourself into this energy of it's a deeper level of commitment. It's deeper intention. It's like really, really, hey, you want to make this shift, show up, make your bed kind of a thing, show up for 5 days and surround yourself with other like-minded people. You've got the accountability, you've got the community, you've got access to the master, the most organized man in America. Did I get that right? Yeah. Somebody's got to be. That's awesome. Well, that starts January 9th, right? Yeah. So we'll definitely have this out before then. So we'll definitely have an opportunity for listeners to participate with that, with you for that. So I'm really excited for that. I'm gonna mark my calendar as well. Check my account, make sure I have $1. Awesome. No, I'm all good there. Well, Mr. Andrew, it has been such a pleasure to connect. Is there anything else you want to leave us with your mission, with what you're out to create in the world? What's the one thing, let's say, what's the one thing if someone's kind of in the middle of, they don't know, they're feeling overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they've got going on. What's like the one little baby step, little one thing, something they could do to kind of help shift their energy or their mindset?
Yeah, I would say everybody can take one more step. So just a body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling overwhelmed, just move your body. Just literally just get up, and you will break the hold. As you know, where we started this conversation at the very beginning, you will tell yourself, because you had a crappy day, that you have a crappy life.
Yeah.
And that will keep you stuck in that loop of everything sucks. It doesn't suck. Even if it sucks right now, it's not going to be like that forever. It isn't. So move a muscle, change a feeling, change a thought, get into action. Go for low-hanging fruit. If you can pick up a piece of junk mail and throw it in the recycle bin, do it. If you can empty the sink, wash the dishes, or put them in the dishwasher, do it. If there's something, a piece of clothing on the floor, put it in the hamper. Anything will get you moving forward. I get that when you're looking at it, all of the things you have to do to get from where you are to where you want to be, it seem overwhelming. You don't have to get there in a moment. We talk all the time in all of our programs about channeling your inner tortoise, right? I mean, that's slow awesome. And steady is how you're going to win the race. It is not sprinting and then collapsing is how you have probably in the past not accomplished your goals. So I get the idea that you want relief, and you want relief fast, and you can want what you want. You're going to get what you get through slow and steady, consistent application.
Yeah.
And I talk all the time about this as well. There's in the way that you grew up with hoarders. I mean, and it's not a tremendous amount of obesity in my family, but there was, I have some family members who were obese, and I have people who died from heart disease and, didn't take care of their bodies. And so I work out with a trainer 3 times a week, not because, I am vain enough that I want to look good with my clothes on and without my clothes on. And I mostly want this thing to work until I die, right? Like I don't want it to fail and then have to spend 10 years on the planet in a body that doesn't function. I don't want that to be the scenario. I mean, I have little control over some of it, right? I mean, some of it's genetics and other things, but to the degree that I can exercise this in a way that keeps it sustainable, I'm committed to doing that because I want it to function. I work out with a trainer because while I know how to pick up a kettlebell and swing it, I will not do that if I don't have somebody meeting me on Zoom requiring me to do it. So it goes back to all of that stuff about accountability. Even here while I'm traveling on the road, right? I do push-ups every day, not because I like push-ups. I don't like doing push-ups, but what I like less is being flabby, out of breath, and not able to participate in my own life. Right. So if the choice is get down on my feet and my hands and push myself up and down 15, 20 times at a time, I will choose to do that rather than sit and be miserable. So, I'm here in Bali right now. You don't have to be in Bali for this, but it's warm and humid and people don't wear a lot of clothing a lot of the time. I mean, it's a conservative culture, so people are modest, but people are also going to the beach, and there's a lot of people with very pretty bodies here. And there's a lot of yoga and all of those things that come with it. Right. Would be very easy to compare my body to their bodies and go, ugh, why bother? I mean, just eat another piece of cake. This is an unwinnable fight. Yeah. But as much as I can have that thought, I also just say that may be true, and do the fucking push-ups anyway. Do them anyway. It won't hurt me. So just get down on the floor and do the push-ups. And it's the same thing with just pick up the junk mail. I understand that you might be surrounded by junk mail. Pick up a piece. go to the kitchen sink and just let's have the kitchen sink be empty. Wash the dishes, put them in the dishwasher, make your bed, put the clothes in the hamper, do a load of wash, clean off your desktop, clean off your computer desktop, throw an email away. You don't have to solve all the problems today, but take a step forward. Success breeds success, failure breeds failure. The last time you were not successful, you're already feeling beat up when you attempt it. So let's build some success and some forward movement. It doesn't take a lot. Just put yourself in some action and you will feel better. And once you feel better, you will be able to do better.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That's right in my philosophy. I'm like, y'all just do one thing, just move your body. I think we need to be having more conversations around that. In general, just the impact of our body and the way, like, even though you don't feel like it, dance for 3 minutes or do push-ups or do whatever, like that literally shifts and moves things around and allows us to, okay, I can make the bed, and really, and Mel Robbins talks about this a lot in her 5-second rule, like retraining our hypothalamus to, it's not having the feeling dictate our action, but doing the action first, even though we might not feel like it. And then it's like, oh, I feel like doing the next thing. And we never would have felt like doing the next thing had we not like just go do it.
Yeah.
And so I love that that's what you're up about, or that's what you're about. And, getting people registered for this De-Stress Your Mess Challenge. I'm really excited to hear that that's what's going on. That's the one thing people can do too, right? One thing, $1. Register.
One thing, $1.
Yeah. So we'll include everyone, all your links and all that good stuff, andrewmellen.com, and, keep on shining that light, making the world a more beautiful place, and doing your thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.
Thanks so much.